You think you know what we're going to talk about.
But unfortunately, I fell down a damn rabbit hole and I've not gotten out yet.
Knife bros.
I literally Googled Sebastian Stan hands.
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
Well, yeah, because like usually in astrology, they would partner up air signs with fire signs.
All right, you can huggle.
Time travel stories, and
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
Well, we should make it a topic. Unfortunately, I didn't take German in school. I took Spanish and I don't remember any of it.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Three Fates Decide. My name is Mary. and I'm here with two of my co-hosts, Sam and Liz. Say hi, ladies.
Hello.
Tonight, we are going to be talking about Star Wars. A few weeks ago, we talked about the original trilogy. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the ill-fated prequel trilogy, episodes 1 through 3.
well, there is an argument to be made that the sequel trilogy is a bit ill-fated too.
Well, yes, but this one was really hated on.
I don't think there's one film that actually was liked.
Yeah.
Basically, they should have just kept it the original 3 and called it a day, but, you know.
Pretty much.
Gotta make money
fanboy
somehow.
money is too good.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. And you know what? We're all suckers because we do it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen all of them.
Yep, me too.
I own all of them.
Yep, me too.
Okay, to be fair to our audience, I'm the only one out of the three of us who is not a huge Star Wars fan, so I'm mostly watching some of these. Well, some of these movies I did watch before, but some of them I'm only watching them because we're going to talk about them. Otherwise, I wouldn't.
Oh,
that's for full disclosure.
It's okay.
Honestly, good job. All right, so the prequel trilogy is, as you know, 3 movies. First one is The Phantom Menace. It came out in May of 1999. The second one is Attack of the Clones. It came out May of 2002. And then the third one is Revenge of the Sith, which came out in May of 2005.
Yes.
So, yeah. I guess
Been a little bit since they've come out, but
yeah.
I started to try to watch them again just to refresh my memory. I sadly could not make it through the first one.
That one yeah.
As
you can tell, we're all so excited to talk about this trilogy because it's just
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the actors that were in it, but oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I the actors, and poor Hayden Christensen, which he doesn't get introduced until episode 2. Yeah. I like him, and I actually feel bad for how much he was trashed for playing Anakin Skywalker. I didn't think he was that bad, but he's actually coming back as Anakin in a new, I think it's a Disney Plus series or something like that. So I guess they liked him anyway. They said, "Screw you, fans! We're bringing him back."
But, I mean, none of the actors necessarily did a terrible job acting. It was the script.
Yeah, agreed.
Was the main issue that I had with the movies, I should say. That and one character in particular that we meet very early on in the first movie, and it's just he just sets the tone for the whole show and the whole trilogy, and you're just like, why have they not tried to force choke him multiple
I think I know
times?
who you're talking about.
I know you know who I'm talking about.
They did cut him out of most of it after the first movie. So
yeah. Yeah.
But it's so funny because, like, the screenwriters or whatever. So for the first movie, George Lucas wrote it. The second movie, he wrote part of it and had another person help him, and then he wrote the third one. So this is all George Lucas. You would think, after the success that he had with the original three, he would know how to
George,
do a
better.
prequel. Do better, George. God.
George, do better. George, you're a phenomenal director. Do better.
Oh my god. I guess let's get started. We'll do a quick synopsis.
Dive on in.
Of each episode, kind of go through things that we like, things that we didn't like, which I think that list might be a little bit bigger. And
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And some fun trivia for you. All right, so episode 1, Phantom Menace. It takes place 32 years prior to the original films. It starts off with two Jedis. So you have Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which we know Obi-Wan from the original trilogy. They discover the corrupt Trade Federation has formed a blockade around the planet Naboo. Naboo's Senator Palpatine, who is secretly a Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, who we also met in the original trilogy, has engineered the blockade as a pretext to become Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. With the help of Naboo's queen, Padme Amidala, and the amazing yet not amazing Jar Jar Binks, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan managed to escape the blockade. They wind up on Tatooine to repair their ship because they crashed, and that's when they meet a little boy who's a slave on Tatooine called Anakin Skywalker, hence the last name Skywalker. Qui-Gon thinks he's the quote-unquote chosen one and decides to take Anakin with him to train him to be a Jedi.
The Jedi Council did not want Anakin to be trained as a Jedi because they felt that he would. At the time, if I'm remembering it all correctly, at the time they felt that he was not strong enough in the Force.
So I think what it is because he left his mother. They felt that he had too much emotion to become a Jedi. And when you become a Jedi, you basically have to learn how to not live with emotion because emotion is the pathway to the dark side. So this is kind of like foreshadowing for young Anakin. But yeah, so Qui-Gon decides, you know what? I don't care what the Jedi Council says. I'm going to take Anakin as my new apprentice anyway. Meanwhile, he's still has Obi-Wan, so they kind of make Obi-Wan his own, a master himself. And meanwhile, Palpatine persuades the Queen Amidala to vote no confidence on the Galactic Senate's leader, which basically forces him out and pushes for a new vote, which will get Palpatine to become the new person in charge of the Senate, which is exactly what he wanted. So all of this is his ploy. On Naboo, Padme, there's one part I skipped. Excuse me, I apologize. So Padme is with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan when they go to Tatooine, and she says that she is a servant of the Queen. And when they get to the Trade Federation, she reveals that she's actually the real queen, and the person that's pretending to be queen is actually is like a step in for her to protect her.
Yeah, it's actually what is it, like a body double, a body slave?
Yeah, body double to protect her.
Yeah.
So basically the Trade Federation then starts fighting because basically they want to kill the queen. So there's like a whole big battle. Anakin hides in a starfighter ship and by accident triggers the autopilot and shoots off into space to go help everyone that's fighting, and
remember that.
manages to cause the destruction of the Trade Federation's like ship and like deactivates the droid army. So he basically helps win. Meanwhile, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are in a lightsaber duel with Maul,
Darth
who has
Maul.
this awesome double saber sword. Unfortunately, he does kill Qui-Gon, but Obi-Wan manages to slice him in half
Yes.
and wins. And basically at the end there's a whole big celebration. The Palpatine is Chancellor, the Republic is, restored, and Master Yoda promotes Obi-Wan officially to a Jedi Knight and basically tells him you can take Anakin as your apprentice. And that's pretty much how we end that lovely movie.
The first episode.
Yes, first episode.
The first episode 1.
Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact of the day. The first one, which I think now most people know, is that the body double for Padme is actually Keira Knightley.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they look so similar in their makeup that their parents actually couldn't tell who was who at times on set.
Which is pretty amazing and kind of odd.
Yeah, because if you would look at the two of them side by side and just like normally, they look nothing alike.
Nothing
alike. And I mean, they're both, Natalie Portman, I enjoyed her as Padme Amidala, but
in the first episode I did.
Yes, the first episode I did. kind of got annoyed with her in the second and the third.
Yeah.
She got a little whiny towards the end. Yeah.
But no, this had an amazing cast. You had Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Liam Neeson, who I adore, as Qui-Gon, Natalie Portman, as we said, is Queen Amidala, a young Jake Lloyd, who was kind of a known kid star around that time. He played Anakin. Ian McDiarmid came back from the original trilogy and did Senator Palpatine. We had the amazing Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
Who was in charge of the Jedi Council. I can't think of his name for the love of God.
Windu.
Thank you. Master Windu. So, yeah, obviously there's a bunch of other characters, but those are like the big name stars I would consider. So, yeah, let's dive in real quick on our thoughts of this. All I can say is I thought it was a very slow-paced film. Not a lot of action. It just, yeah. And again, as we're going to talk about, Jar Jar Binks was just annoying as hell.
Oh God, I wanted to slap Jar Jar Binks so bad.
Misa say.
He's clearly like one of those characters that was meant to become like the toy character later for the merchandising.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know that.
Well, he was targeted for the kids watching the movie, but unfortunately, they kind of fell short of I don't know if they overshot the childish mark or they undershot it. I'm still not sure which. He was I don't know. He just yeah, that's Jar Jar Binks. That's why I can't watch the movies, especially the first one.
Well, what's funny is that because so many people did not like Jar Jar Binks, he was actually supposed to be a bigger character in the second and third movies, but because there was such a dislike for that character, he was there, but like very seldomly, and he didn't speak really. They just completely like cut his character because so many people disliked him.
Yeah. He was It was bad. He was bad.
But no, I mean, I thought the actors did well. Poor little Jordan. Another little trivia. Apparently, it was after he was teased relentlessly in school because of his portrayal of Anakin that he quit acting.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it's kind
awful.
of sad that happened, but
I didn't think they did bad. It's just they were not given a good script to go off of is the problem.
I did think the character of Anakin, he was annoying. Not that Jordan did bad, but the character itself, he was an annoying, whiny, and I mean, I get it. He's, this
Typical
9-year-old
9-year-old.
slave. Yeah, like, whatever. But it was like, I don't know. Like the scene that comes to my mind is like when they're in front of like the Jedi Council and like they're questioning him or whatever. Like the way he like responded to things, I would have backhanded him so quick. Like, boy, who are you talking to? Like,
I know, right?
You don't even know. Like, disrespect. God. Things that I liked, I mean, there wasn't, the graphics were better than the original 3, but it's also because it was the late 90s and early 2000s, so graphics were better. Of course, watching them now, you're like, wow, these graphics are terrible, but for the time,
Yeah.
they were better.
Right.
That's about all I can say in terms of positivity.
Yeah, there was not a lot of the only really positive thing that I really enjoyed was I love Liam Neeson and I love Ewan McGregor, so watching those two together on a film was like, yay!
Yeah, pretty much. I have to agree with that.
Because I'm just like, I really want them to do more films together because they have such good on-screen chemistry that they can play off of.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see them do something completely different with the two of them because I'm just like, that would be so much fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, should we continue on?
Yes, we will continue on to Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Dun dun dun. So this takes place 10 years after the first movie. And basically, the Galactic Republic is threatened by a separatist movement organized by a former Jedi Master, Count Dooku. Padme is now senator, and she comes to vote on a motion to create an army to assist the Jedi against the, impending threat. And she has an assassination attempt when she arrives and is placed under the protection of Obi-Wan Kenobi and his older now apprentice Anakin Skywalker. They're able to stop a second attempt on Padme's life and, find the assassin, but unfortunately before they got a chance to really talk to the assassin, they were killed by a bounty hunter before she can reveal anything. The Jedi Council tells Obi-Wan to go find the bounty hunter and for Anakin to stay and protect Padme and escort her back to Naboo. And awkward upon awkward, the two of them wind up falling in love, and it's kind of gross, but we'll get into that in a little bit later. But Obi-Wan winds up on the planet Kamino, where he discovers there's a huge army of clones that are being produced for the Republic under the name Sifo-Dyas, who is a Jedi that passed away. And the bounty hunter Jango Fett is serving as their genetic template. So Obi-Wan wants to go and meet with Jango, and he winds up revealing that the clones were an idea from a man named Tyrannus. Obi-Wan basically figures that Jango is the bounty hunter that he's been looking for since that second assassin. And they fight a little bit, and basically Obi-Wan's able to put like a tracker on Jango's ship and follows him to his home and meets his son Boba. Again,
Boba Fett.
foreshadowing. On their and his son is a clone apparently on the planet Geonosis.
Genosis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is why I keep you around.
Well, the only reason I know it's Genosis is because I watch a YouTuber that uses the same name.
Ah, there you go. Boom.
Yep.
So, meanwhile, while, Obi-Wan's actually doing what he's supposed to do, Anakin all of a sudden starts getting visions of his mother, Shmi, who's in a lot of pain and, is not doing very well, and decides to go home to Tatooine, and Padme goes with him, and he finds out from his previous owner, Watto, that he sold Shmi to a farmer, and that the farmer had actually freed her and married her. And he finds out that unfortunately his mother was abducted by the Tusken Raiders a few weeks earlier, and basically they stop the search. They just figure that she's dead. So Anakin decides to go out and find her, and finds the camp, finds his mom barely alive, but unfortunately she dies in his arms, and he gets so angry. Remember what we talked about in the first episode about how the Jedi were concerned about his emotions? He gets so angry that he just kills everybody.
Because he can't control them.
He can't control them. So men, women, children, he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Kills them all.
He kills them all. And basically he later, yes, he tells Padme later on that basically he doesn't care what the Jedi says. He's going to make sure that the people that he loves will not die, and that the powers that he has, are going to be used to protect them, even though that's a link to the dark side, and it is forbidden for the Jedi to use your emotions. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he wants to do. So going back to the good Jedi, Obi-Wan, he discovers that the Separatists are gathering, and they're developing a droid army with the Trade Federation. Remember from the first movie, with Viceroy, and basically Viceroy was the one that ordered the attempts on Padme's life. Obi-Wan basically transmits a message to the Jedi Council, but unfortunately is captured by the Separatists. Dooku basically explains his role in the Confederacy, and basically tells him that the Darth Lord Sidious is in charge of a huge part of the Galactic Senate. So kind of tells him without telling him that, he's like the Sith is in charge of everything. He tries to tell him, or he then wants to work with him, but obviously he doesn't use the correct ways of the Force. So Obi-Wan basically tells Dooku, like, no, I'm not helping you, or anything. So then, meanwhile, the Senate representative, Jar Jar Binks, we all love him, proposes a successful vote to grant emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine, allowing for the clone army to be authorized. So pretty much everything that, even though he's a bad guy, Dooku is telling Obi-Wan is true. It's all messed up. Anakin and Padme had intercepted the message from Obi-Wan, so they know where he is. So they decide to go and rescue him. They both get captured. Oh, and but before they left, they did send the message to the Jedi, so they do know where Obi-Wan is and all that. But Anakin and Padme go to Genosis to go rescue. They get into a fight. They get captured, and then it's like this whole big kind of Roman-esque fight with these weird animals and
Gladiator games.
yeah, it's like a gladiator type of deal where, they're basically being killed in front of everybody, but they're Jedi, so they manage to these big monster animals that are weird, and the Jedi show up, and there's a whole big fight, and they wind up going after Dooku, who tried to escape. Dooku engages in a lightsaber duel with them. He manages to sever Anakin's right arm, which, if you remember from the original 3D, same thing happened to Luke via Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Yoda comes in and defends them and basically beats them, but Dooku manages to get away anyway. But basically, it ends with the Jedi's acknowledging that the Clone Wars have officially started, and the whole movie ends with Anakin and Padme secretly getting married on Naboo, and the only witnesses are C-3PO and R2-D2, because who doesn't want androids to be the witnesses at their wedding? And that is the end of
Yes.
Attack of the Clones.
Yes. A lot happened in this movie.
Yeah, it's like stuff happened, and yet somehow you feel like what the hell is it?
Oh, one thing I forgot, Jango Fett did get beheaded.
Yes.
That's the one thing I forgot. I apologize. In the battle.
By Mace Windu. Master
Yes.
Mace Windu.
Windu's like, pacha! So Jango Fett's gone, and here comes Boba Fett.
I was gonna say, here comes Boba Fett, who is also getting his own show on Disney Plus. So that's a little something. And as is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is also getting his own show on Disney Plus.
As he should.
Yes.
I mean, that would actually be kind of interesting because, I mean, undoubtedly he must have been doing something in between the end of the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. So,
Be very interesting to see.
I'm reading some of the trivia. So apparently Samuel L. Jackson said that the words "bad motherfucker" are engraved on the hilt of his lightsaber, which is, as we all know, those are some of his things that he said a lot, especially in Pulp Fiction. So
yes,
Palpatine is he's a master manipulator, man.
Yes, he is.
He's on his game. Boom. You're really going to see how manipulative he is in the next one. But,
yes.
yes, you guys may have realized I mentioned how gross it was that Anakin and Padme fell in love. And I guess part of it is because, even though I'm guessing the age gap technically isn't that big, but when you think of the first movie, you have little Jordan, who's like 9, and then you have Padme, she's probably only like 14, 15 as queen. You know what I mean? But it's like, you have Natalie Portman, who was like 18, 19 at the time. So it's like to see that, and then, all of a sudden the second movie, it's been 10 years, but like, dude, he was a kid. He was a baby when you met him, and now you're making out with him.
I know. It was disgusting.
And they made it awkward. Like, this is one thing, like Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen didn't have, I didn't think anyway, really good chemistry.
No.
So it was awkward.
Yes.
It was just really, really awkward. That's my take.
It was. Because, I mean, I look at other people that, I'll tell you another one that didn't have, and this has nothing to do with Star Wars, but it's just, we already spoke about Keira Knightley and Clive Owen in King Arthur. There was, because he played obviously King Arthur, she played Guinevere. There was no freaking chemistry between the two of them. And there was no chemistry between her and Lancelot either. Who was she supposed to? And it's just like, oh, good God.
And maybe that's why it was so bad, though. Like, it's the lack of chemistry.
I think so.
That just made it even more icky.
Icky?
I'm going to say that. Icky.
Icky.
yeah.
Wow. Apparently, NSYNC was supposed to be... Oh my God, that's so funny. So, NSYNC, who was my favorite boy band as a young teenager, filmed a scene of them playing Jedis in the nightclub scene near the beginning of the film, but it was cut out of the final film.
That would have been stupid. I don't even know why they even bothered.
Why not? PR.
Well, it said here that Lucas had asked them to do it to satisfy his daughter.
Oh, well, there you go.
It's all George Lucas's fault, damn it.
No, personally, I think it was better off he cut that out because that would have that would have made it more stupid.
It would have been bad.
Anything that you guys liked, disliked? Did you like it better than the first one, less than the first one? I actually like this one even less than the first one.
Yeah. there
Yeah,
was
the
a
awkwardness. Yeah, the
yeah,
awkwardness is just like, ugh.
the only good parts were anything that had to do with Obi-Wan. That was about it.
Yeah, watching competent people do competent things is actually pretty good, you know?
That well, that and I mean, honestly, Ewan McGregor is not hard on the eyes at all in any way, shape, or form. I just could sit and watch that man all day long.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much the only reason I really even
I'm reading a top
yeah.
review, and
Hmm.
they're like, oh, the plot isn't well thought out and felt convoluted, which
Uh-huh.
I agree. Poor
Very much
Hayden
so.
Christensen gave a truly abysmal performance as Anakin.
But I don't
And
necessarily think that was his fault. That was the shitty plot or the
he
shitty script.
the guy praised everybody else but Anakin. So, or except for Hayden, excuse me. And then he goes, this is pretty funny. And although the presence of Jar Jar Binks was toned down here, his presence anywhere seemed jarring.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much.
At it. No major trivia that I saw in for the second one.
No.
But yeah, no, I personally didn't think Hayden did as bad as people thought. I don't know if people just thought he was overacting. The third one, I think he had some questionable moments. We'll get into that when we get to the third episode, but I
Yeah.
honestly didn't think he did that bad in this episode. And honestly, people praise Natalie. I didn't think she did that well. I didn't think she
Yeah.
did that well in any of them. And they're like, "Oh, she's awesome." No, she's not. Like, this was not her trilogy. Like, I didn't like her character. Maybe it's the character. I just didn't like her at all. I thought the first one she was okay, but the second and third one she just annoyed me.
I wonder if it's also because like George Lucas, he's lost it, like his
Yeah.
directing ability. If he just like lost it, because I double checked. I looked up like for the prequel trilogy. He directed all three, and I think he wrote all three,
Yep.
which is not a good sign.
Yeah, and he created all three.
Yeah.
Which, so he thought about the whole premise, he wrote it, and then he directed it. Worked for him for the first three, not so much for these.
Well, I mean, well, the original trilogy, he had co-writers in episode 5 and 6, though.
Yeah, he only had co-writers for episode 2. Work out very well for him.
Not at all. It just he needs the co-writers. He really does. But unfortunately the co-writers didn't work out well either. So what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like, well, this is a general criticism of George Lucas, but it just feels like the way Star Wars was done, it honestly feels like he had a cool idea for the very first movie, and then when he realized that it's actually popular and people want to keep watching it, he's like, "Oh crap, I have to come up with more stories." That's honestly what it feels like.
And I really think he did, like, because the original 3, and I know we talked about this, they were fine. Yes, there were certain movies that were better than the others, whatever, but like as a trilogy as a whole, I thought it was great. And that's why it became so popular. And notice how long after they decided to do this prequel trilogy, and it's almost like they wanted to do like the origin story type of deal to like how did we get to where we were? They just didn't do it right.
They fell well short of the mark.
Yeah, and what's crazy is like they kind of go into the origin, like that Darth Vader is Luke's father, and they say who his father is. They say Anakin, that he knows he was a Jedi, like he learned, like, so like they had they had the story, they just didn't execute the extended version of the story very well.
Right.
I mean, this is like has the like I was saying before, this has been a personal criticism I had about Star Wars. It is like overall the movies are very entertaining. I mean, I'm not saying they're not. It's just that if you were to dig deeper into the actual stories themselves, it's like it genuinely feels like they kind of slapped together the plot without, and because they hadn't really thought of the plot ahead of time per se. It's like there's a difference between a trilogy that was written specifically to be a trilogy versus a movie trilogy where it wasn't actually designed to be a trilogy. It just happened that the first movie did great, and now there's a demand for sequels or a continuation, and now you have to come up with a story, which is how I felt like kind of happened with the original trilogy, except he got fortunate that his co-writers on the scripts were actually pretty good, because like, most people would agree that episodes 5 and even 6 are probably the best movies out of the whole 9 movie saga. So it kind of feels like with the prequel trilogy, like you were saying, Sam, is that they already introduce bits of the origin in the original trilogy, and they're trying to flesh it out, but it almost feels like they didn't really go in with they were kind of going in with like a half-baked plan.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, the reason why like I felt like the original trilogy was not really written to be a trilogy per se originally is because there were things in the very first movie, and when you think back on it, you realize, well, there were details that weren't consistent in the in the following 2 movies. So it's like, what's going on here? And that's what I started suspecting, that he wasn't writing it initially to thinking that this was actually going to be a series of movies, which makes sense because until the first movie came out, when was the last time you saw a space opera like this before?
Right.
So I honestly think that he just kind of came up with, The Empire Strikes Back and, Return of the Jedi, because there was a sudden demand for it. And like I was saying before, I think he just got lucky that his collaborators on those 2 were actually very good, so they made them into better movies. So,
Pretty much.
All right. Let's jump into the third one.
yeah.
Revenge of the Sith.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. So above Coruscant, which is where like the Senate all is, it's like kind of like a huge major city planet thing. Anyway, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker are on a mission to rescue the quote unquote kidnapped Supreme Chancellor Palpatine from the Separatist commander General Grievous. After they get onto the ship, they battle Count Dooku again. And this time, Anakin manages to get the upper hand, and Palpatine pretty much orders him to kill him, and he decapitates his head. General Grievous manages to escape and runs away. The ship that they're on is like all beat up and destroyed, and they manage to crash land it onto Coruscant, and everyone's okay. Palpatine's okay, Obi-Wan's okay, Anakin's okay. So they all go back down and celebrate. Yay, they won that battle, whatever. Anakin reunites with his now wife, Padme, and she reveals that she is pregnant. And even though he's excited, he starts to have similar visions that he had with his mother of Padme dying in childbirth. So he starts like mentally freaking out. Palpatine appoints Anakin to the Jedi Council as his personal representative over the council's, like that's just not the way things are. So now the council is super suspicious of Palpatine. So they decide to approve Anakin's appointment, basically, but they will not grant him a Jedi Master, which kicks him off, but they instruct him to spy on Palpatine. And as a result, Anakin starts losing his faith in the Jedi. And so it's like all, bad juju with them. Meanwhile, Grievous went to Utapau and he relocates the Separatist leaders on a volcanic planet called Mustafar. Obi-Wan manages to find him, confronts Grievous, and kills him. And Yoda travels to the Wookiee home world, which is called Kashyyyk, and wants to be there to defend it from the Separatist invasion, because now the Separatists are pretty much kind of going everywhere. Palpatine is kind of messing with Anakin's head and talking about the Force and mentioning how like the dark side, will help him with certain things, and offers to teach him ways to use the dark side, especially to prevent death of the people that he loves, aka Padme. Anakin pretty much figures out that Palpatine is a Sith Lord and is behind this clone war that they're now involved in, and runs to tell Master Windu, and goes with Master Windu to confront Palpatine, even though Anakin is worried about Padme. So Windu goes to kill Palpatine, and Anakin, who's just so worried about, losing Padme, winds up killing Windu, or helping kill Windu. He cuts off his arm before he has a chance to kill him, and then Palpatine basically knocks him with like his electric whatever and kills him. Anakin then pledges himself to the Sith, to Palpatine, and becomes Darth Vader. Palpatine then, now that he pretty much has control, issues Order 66 to the clone troops, and that's basically to kill all Jedi generals in the galaxy. So slowly but surely, you see all these different Jedis getting killed. He sends Anakin to the Jedi Temple, and Anakin kills the little kids, wannabe Jedis. They call them younglings. It's very sad. And then he goes to see Padme, and tells her that something is wrong, and he doesn't know what's going on or anything, but he has to go and travel, but he'll be okay, he'll be back. So he goes up to Mustafar and kills the Separatist leaders, and Palpatine declares himself now the Emperor for the Senate, and transforms the Republic into the Empire, and basically says that the Jedis are a bunch of traitors and that you can't trust them, and ends the time of the Jedi. Obi-Wan and Yoda manage to survive Order 66, and they go back to Cruciant. Oh my god, I can't say city
Coruscant.
place. that place, yeah, Coruscant. And Obi-Wan then learns that Anakin turned to the dark side. So Yoda tells Obi-Wan, you go and take care of Anakin. He's going to take care of Palpatine. So Obi-Wan thinks, well, what's the best way to find him would be to go to Padme, because he knew. He never said it, but he knew that Anakin and Padme were, messing around and stuff like that. So he tells Padme about Anakin's treachery. And he leaves. Well, Padme thinks he leaves. Padme decides to travel to Mustafar, where Anakin is, and Obi-Wan stows away on her ship. When they get there, she, confronts Anakin about what's going on. She finds out that it's actually true. She gets very, very upset. And then Anakin sees that Obi-Wan's there. He thinks that Padme betrayed him. He basically chokes her, and she falls to the ground unconscious. And then Obi-Wan and now Vader do an epic lightsaber duel, and it ends with Obi-Wan cutting off Vader's legs and his left arm. So he's basically on the bank of a river of lava, and he winds up lighting on fire. And Obi-Wan takes Vader's lightsaber, and he leaves thinking that, he's going to die. So he leaves. Meanwhile, Yoda battles Palpatine. No one really wins. Yoda manages to flee with another senator, Organa, and regroups with Obi-Wan and Padme, where Padme then gives birth to twins. What are the twins' names? I'm so glad you asked. It's Luke and Leia. I know, it's such a shocker. I am shocked myself. And then Padme forgets the fact that she has 2 kids, and decides she doesn't want to live anymore because her husband is a Sith Lord and dies. So that's basically like the only thing they say. Like she lost her will to live. Like she didn't care that she had twins. Listen, I don't like Padme. I'm just gonna say it anyway. But she basically tells Obi-Wan beforehand that she still thinks that there's good in him. Palpatine manages to find Vader. He's still alive. I don't know how, but he is still managed alive. He puts him in a black armored suit with some oxygen, and thus the Darth Vader that we all came to know and love, actually, in the original 3 is born with his little and then Palpatine really kind of seals the deal for Vader when he asks if Padme was okay, and Palpatine tells him that he killed her, which, I mean, I guess kind of like in a way he did, but like he didn't at the same time. Yeah. Basically, he said it just to make him all upset. So Obi-Wan and Yoda decide to conceal or to hide the twins from the Sith because they don't know, what's going on. They don't want the kids to get in trouble, so they decide to split them up after Padme's funeral, which is on Naboo. Senator Organa decides to adopt Leia with his wife and take her to Alderaan, and that's where she grows up, as we know from the first movie. And Obi-Wan takes Luke to his step uncle and aunt in Tatooine, and that's where he then grows up. And that is the end of the first trilogy.
Huzzah!
Dun, dun.
Anyway,
Yes, it's over, people. We
yeah.
made it.
Thank God.
Honestly,
I mean,
out of the 3, I thought this one was the best.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if I had to pick which one is the best of the 3, I would agree that this one is the best one, just because it really puts you into that place where now you see how everything went completely wrong.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
just shows like what happened to Anakin, how he turned, why he turned. Listen, the man did have a good reason, but this is why the Jedi didn't want him to be a Jedi. So, I got it. I understood. But yeah, no, out of the 3, I thought this one was definitely the best. Apparently, Hayden Christensen gained 24 pounds of muscle for this movie. He did have a lot of shirtless scenes. Not upset about it. What did we think?
I mean, the only thing I liked about it was like, okay, obviously the visuals were great. Like I said earlier, it really sets up like how everything went completely wrong and how we ended up in the original trilogy. But there's so many things that happen in it that are like, really? Really? That happened? Come on.
Did it have to happen? Well, like, and you want to know what annoyed me was, so, like, Anakin right away, like, gets mad at the Jedi. Now, the Jedi literally have been taking care of him for years. And one little thing, and he, like, all of a sudden, he has no trust in the Jedi anymore. Like, he was willing to just throw it all away over Palpatine, who, again, as I mentioned, master manipulator. He saw the one weakness that Anakin had at the very beginning of that movie, and that was it. And he just sunk his teeth right into him and knew, like, this is how I'm gonna win, and just completely took over from there and manipulated him to the point that even though Anakin knew he was bad and he was a Sith Lord, and like, yeah, okay, he wanted to like take him and like put him in jail or whatever, like Windu explaining like he's too dangerous to be kept alive, but because selfishly he still needed him to protect Padme, he was like, you know what, I don't care if you die, and I'm gonna become a Sith because, I gotta protect my wifey. Yeah, it's just, Anakin just, again, I get it, but at the same time, it's like he just switched so freaking quick. I don't, like, I just can't.
Yeah. This trilogy was just bad from start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but that's basically the end of the that trilogy, the prequel trilogy, it does set this last movie does set up the next trilogy, the original trilogy, very well. At least from the Luke Leia perspective. You don't really learn about like Han or anything like that until later with his own personal like origin story movie. So as you guys can tell, we really don't have that much to say because we just really didn't enjoy this trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
No, not at all.
I mean, I pretty much said everything I had to say about this trilogy and well, Star Wars in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I basically I like the original 3 movies, obviously. This one, like, I didn't mind it. It wasn't great, but it wasn't my favorite. It was my favorite out of the 3 movies in this trilogy, but like in Star Wars as a whole. And then episode 7, I like that one. And then the rest of them I'm like, yeah, we didn't really need to go any further.
Nope.
Could have just left it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those of you listening, I'm sure you could tell through this whole hour, we hated this trilogy. But I hope that my synopsis was enough to keep you listening for the whole episode.
Okay, so before we close out, as usual, we have an email address where you can send us questions, comments, criticisms on how to improve our show. You can email us at threefatesdecide@gmail.com. It's the title of our podcast, all in one word, and the 3 is spelt out.
And you can also reach us on Instagram at 3fatesdecide. The 3 is spelled out. And feel free to send us DMs.
Let us know what you think. We love feedback.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us next time.
And see what we're going to talk about.
Because the 3 fates decide.